I am livid right now, like actually shaking with anger livid, because the Indiana Fever just showed us exactly how little they care about player safety, and I'm about to go off on every single person who allowed this to happen. Y'all want to know what gross negligence looks like in professional sports? Look no further than what just happened to Lexi Hull. This woman got her head rocked, ended up looking like she went 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, and they still put her back in the game. Are you kidding me? Are we actually kidding ourselves right now? Let me paint you a picture of what we just witnessed, because apparently some people need it spelled out for them. Lexi Hull took a shot to the head that was so severe, both of her eyes are completely swollen shut, both eyes. She looks like she got hit by a truck, and the Fever's medical staff was like, yeah, she's fine, send her back out there. This is not a basketball injury. This is not part of the game. This is a woman who potentially has a skull fracture, and instead of rushing her to the nearest hospital for a CT scan, they had her running suicides on the court. The sheer incompetence is breathtaking. And before any of you come at me with, well, she passed the concussion protocol, baby, that protocol is trash. Waving a finger in front of someone's face and asking them what year it is doesn't tell you if their brain is swelling inside their skull. It doesn't tell you if they have internal bleeding. It doesn't tell you if they're about to collapse on the court. Let's talk about what actually happens when you get hit in the head like that. The swelling around both eyes, that's called raccoon eyes, and it's often a sign of a basilar skull fracture. You know what that means? That means her skull might actually be cracked, and they sent her back into a contact sport? I'm not a doctor, but I know enough to understand that when someone's face looks like they got hit with a sledgehammer, you don't clear them to play basketball 30 minutes later. You get them to a trauma center immediately. You do a full neurological workup. You protect their brain, which is literally the only one they'll ever have. But instead, the Fever's medical staff decided to play Russian roulette with this woman's life. And for what? A regular season game? Against a team they were probably going to lose to anyway? This isn't the first time we've seen this kind of medical negligence in the WNBA, and it won't be the last until we start holding these organizations accountable. Remember when Paige Buchers got knocked unconscious and they put her back in the game? She ended up missing 5 games afterward because, surprise, she actually had a concussion. How many times do we need to see players get seriously injured because medical staffs are more concerned about winning games than protecting lives? How many careers need to be cut short because some trainer with a weekend certification thinks they can diagnose traumatic brain injuries with a pen light? And let's be real about what's happening here. These are women's sports, where players are already fighting for respect and recognition. There's pressure to be tough, to play through anything, to never show weakness. But toughness doesn't protect you from brain damage. Toughness doesn't prevent skull fractures from getting worse. Now, let me be clear. Lexi Hull is tough as nails. She's proven that throughout her career. She's the type of player who would try to walk off a severed limb if it meant helping her team win. That's exactly why the medical staff needed to protect her from herself. When a player is that dedicated, that willing to sacrifice for the team, it's the organization's responsibility to say, no, we're not going to let you hurt yourself permanently for one game. That's literally what medical staff is there for, to make the decisions players can't or won't make for themselves in the heat of the moment. But instead, they failed her completely. They looked at a woman whose face was destroyed and decided basketball was more important than her long-term health. That's not just negligent, that's borderline criminal. And here's where it gets even worse. Lexi's mother went on a podcast and revealed that Lexi could barely close her mouth after the hit, that her teeth were knocked out of alignment, and the team's medical staff never even looked at her jaw. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. They had a player who couldn't properly close her mouth after a head injury, and they didn't think that warranted examination. What kind of medical professionals are we dealing with here? This tells me everything I need to know about the Fever's approach to player safety. They're either completely incompetent or willfully negligent. Either way, heads need to roll. People need to be fired. Licenses need to be reviewed. This situation exposes a massive problem in women's professional sports. The medical care is substandard, the protocols are inadequate, and player safety is treated as secondary to competitive success. We're talking about organizations that generate millions of dollars in revenue, but they can't invest in proper medical evaluation equipment? Every NBA arena has access to immediate imaging technology. They have neurologists on call, they have protocols that actually protect players instead of just going through the motions. But in the WNBA, we're still playing finger follow tests like it's 1985. This isn't about money, this is about priorities, and clearly the Indiana Fever's priorities are completely backwards. Let's talk about these joke concussion protocols that everyone keeps defending. You know what a real concussion evaluation looks like? It takes hours, not minutes. It involves baseline testing that was done before the season. It includes cognitive assessments, balance testing, and yes, actual medical imaging when there's visible trauma. But what we saw with Lexi Hull was medical theater, a performance designed to make it look like they were being thorough while actually rushing her back onto the court as quickly as possible. And the fact that she ended up looking like she does proves that their evaluation was worthless. Here's what the Fever's medical staff apparently doesn't understand. Head injuries don't always show their worst effects immediately. Someone can seem fine for minutes or even hours after a traumatic brain injury, then suddenly deteriorate rapidly. Second impact syndrome is real. It's when someone with an undiagnosed brain injury takes another hit and suffers catastrophic brain swelling. It can be fatal within minutes. And they were about to send Lexi Hull back into a contact sport where getting hit in the head is a constant possibility. The fact that they were even considering letting her play the next game is insane. This woman should be in a hospital bed under observation, not suiting up for basketball. This isn't just about one bad medical decision. This represents a complete institutional failure at every level. The medical staff failed by clearing her. The coaches failed by allowing it. The front office failed by creating a culture where this kind of negligence is acceptable. And let's talk about the players' union. Where are they in all this? Why aren't they demanding better medical protocols? Why aren't they fighting for independent medical evaluations that aren't controlled by the teams? Players are getting hurt because the system is designed to put competitive interests ahead of human welfare. You know what's really grinding my gears about this situation? The double standard. If this had happened to a male athlete in a major professional sport, there would be investigations, suspensions, and wall-to-wall media coverage demanding accountability. But because this happened to a woman in the WNBA, we're supposed to just shrug and say, well, sports are dangerous. No, absolutely not. Lexi Hull deserves the same level of medical care and protection as any athlete in any sport, regardless of gender or league revenue. Let me tell you what should have happened the moment Lexi Hull got hit. The game should have stopped. She should have been immobilized and transported to a trauma center immediately. She should have received a full CT scan, neurological evaluation, and been kept for observation. The team should have immediately ruled her out for multiple games and brought in independent neurological specialists to clear her before she even thought about returning to basketball activities. That's what player safety actually looks like. Instead, we got a medical staff that treated a potential skull fracture like a scraped knee. It's disgraceful, and someone needs to be held accountable. Here's what really terrifies me about this situation. We don't know what the long-term consequences are going to be for Lexi Hull. Brain injuries can have effects that don't show up for months or even years. Cognitive issues, memory problems, depression, chronic headaches, these can all develop later as a result of inadequate treatment of traumatic brain injuries. And if that happens, who's going to take care of her? The team that failed to protect her in the first place? The medical staff that cleared her to play when she should have been in a hospital? Or is she going to be left to deal with the consequences on her own? This situation demands immediate action from multiple parties. First, the WNBA needs to launch a full investigation into the Fever's medical protocols and hold people accountable. Second, the players' union needs to demand independent medical evaluations for all head injuries. Third, fans need to make noise about this until something changes. I'm calling on every single person watching this video to share it, to talk about it, to make sure this story doesn't get buried. Lexi Hull's safety matters. Player safety matters. And we cannot let organizations get away with this kind of negligence. Lexi, if you're somehow watching this through those swollen eyes, please don't play tomorrow. Please don't risk your long-term health for one basketball game. Your team will be fine without you for a few games, but you only get one brain for your entire life. Go get a second opinion from an independent neurologist. Get the imaging studies you should have gotten immediately. Take care of yourself, because clearly your organization isn't going to do it for you. This incident represents everything that's wrong with how women's sports treats player safety. We demand excellence from these athletes. We expect them to sacrifice their bodies for our entertainment, but we don't provide them with the basic medical protections they deserve. That has to change, and it has to change now, not after someone suffers permanent brain damage, not after a career gets ended unnecessarily, now. The Indiana Fever failed Lexi Hull in the most basic way possible. They failed to protect her health and safety. Their medical staff should be fired. Their protocols should be completely overhauled. And they should be forced to explain publicly how they thought it was acceptable to send a woman back into a game looking like she'd been in a car accident. This is not about being tough. This is not about competitive spirit. This is about basic human decency and medical ethics, and the Fever failed on both counts. I'm furious, and you should be too, because if we don't demand better for these athletes, situations like this will keep happening, and next time, we might not be so lucky. Next time, someone might not walk away. Share this video, make some noise, hold these people accountable, because Lexi Hull deserves better, and so do all the other women putting their bodies on the line for our entertainment. That's my take, and I stand by every word of it. Fight me in the comments if you disagree.